We all set?
Yep.
It's 7 PM, and I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Middlebury Development Review Board for April 22nd, 2019. I'll go over the agenda items. First, the first application, due to administrative error, the first applicant will not be presenting tonight. So, second application is a request by Town Hall Theater for a conditional use approval for the change of use proposed for the former Park Diner located at 66 Merchants Row. Okay. Are there any other public communications tonight? Not referring to the agenda.
Should we acknowledge Tony coming in and
We can, yeah, if you want, we can just acknowledge Tony came in and expressed regret regarding the concern that was raised. Now I'm fumbling.
Oh, regarding, there was a little article in the paper.
That's right.
Yeah, that mentioned that one of the reasons he didn't pull down the old Desiree Laundry building was because of concerns about politics. And he wanted to clarify that he meant state-level politics and not local politics.
There we go.
That was
Thank you,
nice of him.
Jennifer.
Somebody may have given him a hard time about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next item of business is approval of the minutes for 4/8/2019. What's your pleasure?
I just had a question. I wasn't here, so I don't know if I can comment on the minutes, but I was reading.
I move approval.
Okay, second?
you don't have a quorum, do you? Yeah, we do.
I have,
Yep.
he has a question, and I would like to add something to the minutes.
Maybe
Well,
yours
yeah,
is
but
what
that
I'm
was-
seeing, so why don't, you were here, why don't you
Oh.
go ahead?
Do we have a second first, I guess? We
I
do.
second it.
Okay, Don, second, then. Go ahead, Ann.
After line 262, I wanted to insert the exchange that the attorney for Mr. Holmes and I had concerning the snow. Specifically, something like Auntie asks if all the snow on the front row, on the front lawn came from the right-of-way, would that be all right with Mr. Holmes? And the response of Mr. Dumont was, we would not be here if that were the case, meaning it were all from the right-of-way. And he also added that Ron could not argue it was snow from Dunkin' Donuts if that were the case. And to me, that was a moment of clarity in that whole discussion that I think merits noting.
My question was, reading through them, was there a decision made on the stone mill building? It talks about going into deliberative session, but then it doesn't give a,
What happened, John, is they went into deliberative session, and I recommended that it wasn't necessary to come out and have a motion
okay,
for it. It's the written decision that carries the weight.
okay.
You know, it might be a good subject to discuss with the rules of procedure at some future date.
Okay,
You know, how we want to be clear about that.
no problem. I just wasn't here, so it looked as though there wasn't a decision made, that's all.
So a majority of the minutes pertaining to the Holmes property, I recused myself, so I don't know if I should be voting to approve
Oh.
the minutes. So you only have 3 people.
Right.
That's what I was trying to tell you earlier.
I-
You don't have a quorum.
You were in attendance. I think you could vote. You're just approving.
Okay, I'm just bringing it, that I did not sit on
Yep,
the Holmes application.
yep. I'll make a note of that. And then we'll just put it in the minutes and
Okay. I don't have a problem voting for the minutes, I just.
Any other questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor of the minutes as presented?
As amended.
As amended?
Aye.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here.
John, are you gonna?
Yeah, I'm with you, yes.
Okay. Okay, and the next order of business is application request by Town Hall Theater for conditional use approval for the change of use proposed for the former Bark Diner property located at 66 Merchants Road. Specifically, the former restaurant would be used as flexible space for performing arts, events, meetings, work, and storage. The 66 Merchants Row property is located in the Central Business District on parcel number 24232. Would you like, okay, they're here. Okay. And I need to ask you the oath. The following is the DBR or DRB oath for applicants, interested persons, and those who wish to participate in this hearing. If you are interested in participating in this hearing, please take the oath now. If you do not take the oath, you will not be able to participate. Do you affirm that the evidence and information you are giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Yeah. Thank you. At this time, I would ask the members of the board if any member has a conflict of interest regarding this application. And also at this time, does any member wish to disclose any ex parte conversations concerning this case? Please, identify yourselves and.
By introduction, I'm Pete DeGraff. I think most of you know me. I'm actually here as a representative of the Town Hall Theater Board, not in my usual capacity. And this is, for those of you who haven't met him, this is Mark Bradley, our new executive director. I'm going to let Mark lead off with just a brief discussion about our plans for the diner, our hopes and dreams for the diner, and then we can get into any technical questions that you might have, which is why I'm sitting here.
Great. Well, I just wanted to start by saying thank you all for your time today. Looking forward to your questions. We are really excited about the opportunity that purchasing the diner is affording Town Hall Theater. When I first started last August, I think Doug Anderson, the founder of the present incarnation of THD, put it best that from day one we had already overgrown the space. Theater people, we tend to need a lot of square footage, especially in production. So in looking at the building and the site, we've thought of 3 areas where we could use the building that would fit in with our needs, and also make sure that the building sort of is returned to the community as well. It has a long history in its vocation as a restaurant, which unfortunately we can't continue with that today without significant investment into the back area, but I'll get to that. So the first area, arts and events programming, is largely an extension of the work that we're already doing in the historic facility next door. That dining room, when you walk in there, especially this time of day, it's just a beautiful, beautiful room to be in, and it's extremely inviting, and it would work really quite well for particularly smaller types of performing arts events with artists maybe who aren't that well known and can't really fill 200 seats, but could certainly fill 30 to 50 seats. For receptions, the view onto the green and to the building next door, I think, could work really quite nicely for. We have receptions with our gallery. We have weddings that come in. It would be nice to have sort of an ancillary space for conferences that are coming into town and that use Town Hall Theater. We don't have any place in the building that really works just for that specific purpose and for that size of an audience. So most of the investment that we're going to be making in is really just sort of a facelift for the interior room and improving accessibility of the site for people with disabilities. The second area speaks back to our need for just square footage. That kitchen area is in rough shape, although our board members have been volunteering a lot of time to clean it up and make it usable. So
So you know, the kitchen equipment left with the prior owner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And The kitchen, to a certain degree, has been gutted. We put a new floor in, but that's really, it's just basically a big room now.
Yeah, yeah. So to get new equipment and to make sure everything's up to code and install all that, it's a little bit beyond our resources right now. But it would make a terrific room for storage and workshop space, of which we have considerable needs right now. Especially not only with Town Hall Theater, but with some of the arts groups in the community that also use this space. I mean, we have a storage facility on Exchange Street. We have another one down Route 7. We have stuff that's being kept in people's barns. To have a place where a production can move in, do all of the work, store all of the set pieces and props and equipment all on site is extremely valuable. So that back room, despite not really being something that is presentable to the public, for us is very exciting because we need it. The last area that we mentioned in the project narrative for flex space, well, we kind of figure if we're going to be using it for receptions and meetings and events and storage, that this is something that we could offer to the community. I've moved here in August and have noticed that there's a lot of people that are interested in short-term usage or short-term leases, even for just a space to do their work or to have a meeting or to put on events. And I think we're starting to see that in the Stone Mill building with Bundle that just opened up. So we'd like to add that to the offerings in addition to all of the work that we're doing that's really encompassed by our mission at Town Hall Theater.
That'll work well with another use is currently our office space in the theater itself is very small. Everybody's on top of each other, and to have kind of a breakaway space, some extra desk space, meeting room space for our own staff. So that networks well with people that may need a temporary office space.
Exactly.
That's not a huge part of our business model, but it's something that we're considering.
Yeah, particularly for our resident companies. I mean, for us, we have our board meetings in the gallery. Sometimes it's kind of funny to walk in and see us all sort of arranged. So I think having this space where we can have group meetings, team meetings, for ourselves and also for the resident companies that are coming in, it would be great.
By example, one thing we've thought about is a office space, temporary office space for the summer movie program. I'm trying to blank on it.
The Middlebury New Film, yeah.
The film festival, or the opera company needs some office space while they're doing productions or something like that.
Or even rehearsal space. We have the studio, but that can get taken over by costuming and then there's nowhere to really go for the singers to warm up. So, yeah, I think that room it's going to see a lot of use.
So we've got a lot of dreams for the building. And longer term, our hope and desire is that things continue to go well for the theater. In 5-10 years out, we start a capital campaign where we do an addition to the theater, which is long range. That's the main reason why why the board decided to invest in the property. It's really our only opportunity to expand. Short term, we've got a lot of exciting things that we see we can do with this building, but we also don't have a lot of money. So the other part of this is we're trying to think of creative and innovative uses for it to meet our current needs and the needs of the community, but not have to invest a lot of money in the building to do that. So really, at this point in time, the changes to the diner, other than the work that we talked about earlier in the kitchen, are really cosmetic. It's just to clean it up, as Mark said, make it more accessible. Some of the basic components are to reconfigure the front entry vestibules so that works better for the building. Redo the bathrooms, which are in tough shape and aren't accessible, and putting in a small kitchenette for the uses that we've described. So our short-term goals, primarily because of finances, are to basically stabilize the building and make it usable and a little more attractive for our proposed uses.
Yeah, flexibility is really the theme that's been running through all of the ideas that we have on how to use the building. I've noticed that downtown Middlebury is in a period of change, and we think that this will help not only us but other people in the community really just sort of feel things out and see where things are headed. So we don't want to put too much into one use that will ultimately not work out for a year. We want to be able to pivot quickly.
you actually picked up some land when the purchase was going, right?
A little bit, yeah.
It's 0.15 acres. The theater is 0.32. The diner is 0.15 acres. Most of it's occupied by the diner. A large portion of it, unfortunately, is
Yeah.
the hillside going down to the railroad tracks. But we do pick up some land.
You can't get through to connect to the other driveway there, can you?
No, the
Yeah.
two aren't interconnected.
Okay.
Good idea.
Yeah.
The, is the storage area now, where you're planning on the storage area, is that as large as the front area, the dining area, or is it similar in size? Or a little-
Yeah, so the front area, the dining room area is 723 square feet. And then the back is about 461, so it's about
Okay.
2/3 and 1/3.
About two-thirds, yeah, okay. And
No, I'm sorry.
I'm just, and the storage area will be that only? There won't be any offices in there, or is that where you're proposing, your own offices in there, or is it in the more of the dining area?
Right now, it would take a fairly significant investment to make that into offices, to make it into a more attractive space. That's why we're focused on workshop storage space. One other opportunity that has come up recently is Kubricki has approached us as using the diner as temporary office when Merchants Row closes down during the worst of the construction period. Thinking that we probably won't be able to rent it during that period when that's going on as well. That's attractive for us. So we've started discussions with them about that. If they rent it, they may want to create a conference room in that back area. So we're not going to rule that out, but at this point in
Yeah.
time, we don't have the finances to make it a space that anybody would want to stay in as an office space.
But you could use it, your own use for an office, a small office or something like that, is that?
There's no windows back there. The office that Carl used to have in the very back of the theater it's pretty rough.
It's not very well insulated, yeah. But it works
I
great for storage.
We could ask Mark to be back there, but I wouldn't ask staff.
Okay. So, any questions from the board, anybody? Lighting, okay, go ahead.
The downstairs of the town hall, where the town clerk's office used to be, what do you use that for now?
So in the addition portion, there's the office, a mechanical room, and then the very southernmost portion of the theater, the back corner, is a rehearsal space, studio, and dressing
Okay.
rooms. And then under the main theater itself is the gallery. Stop by sometime, we'll give you a tour.
Yeah,
What's that?
Stop by, we'll give you a tour.
Well,
we have exhibitions through the end of the year, so.
I was a member of the Knights when we sold it to the town hall theater, so I'm quite familiar with.
It's changed a little bit since then.
Yes,
though,
it has.
if you haven't been in.
Has.
So there'll be no exterior changes, no new lighting or anything like that at this time?
None proposed at this point in time.
Okay.
If we're having an event or something, we might put up some garden lights or something like that. But we're not
Yeah.
proposing street lights or building mounted exterior lights or anything like
It'll be a
that.
fresh coat of paint.
And a fresh coat of paint, hopefully.
So staff would remind me why we're dealing with this versus it wasn't handled administratively.
I felt that it was a significant change of use for the property over what it had been used for. So that's.
Lesser use, right?
Yeah. I'm
A
sorry.
lesser use than the restaurant.
Well, it could be, it might not be. It could be used considerably later at night, those kind of things.
Also, they're going to a
But
PUD on this.
That's what I was gonna say, it's a conditional use, but they wanna go to a PUD to be able to get this slate off and running.
Yeah.
But, so my question was quite simply, what, refresh my memory, if you will, as far as trying to go to a PUD, is there a certain amount of acreage or anything that's required for that, or can that,
Not in the zoning district.
okay.
Yep.
So if you just have an adjoining property that's, you wanna lump as one PUD, that's, okay,
There's also no open space requirement in this district.
okay.
And there's no parking requirement.
Do you have a maximum occupancy number for the park diner space?
The preliminary numbers that we've gotten from the architect, the front space has a occupancy of about 50 based on the square footage for theater productions, that type of thing, for events. So that would be really the maximum capacity.
And will the fire marshal confirm that? You'll seek that
Sure.
approval?
Absolutely.
The diner itself had 66 seats, so it's actually a decrease in
Okay.
total usage.
You know, for some of us that have lived here a long time, transformation of that original diner to what it is now, 'cause, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've lived through what it was originally, so. And it was the old-fashioned diner.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmetically, it got covered and
When did they make that changeover? When did they put the addition on?
I was gonna say, I was in high school. Probably in the 50s.
50s,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was crawling around in the basement trying to figure out what was going on with the foundation and why
Yeah.
it was like that, and then we
Yeah.
realized that it was the addition from the original diner.
You won't have any outside activities in the area there? Anything planned?
Well, we've been talking with a couple of food truck vendors to potentially do occasional, have them park the truck in between the building and the theater, depending on how the liquor licensing is going to work, it could make a spot for a little outdoor reception, although we do have the garden on the other side of the building that for nearly all of our events is going to be far more pleasant, I think, for that kind of thing.
If we have any events out there, it'd be consistent with the rest of what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you've had, or they've had events there in the past, I know, on the steps and
Yeah.
whatever, so we just.
In the narrative here, you talk about the installation of a simple bar area. Would that be a permanent installation or something like that thing on wheels that appears in the gallery from time to time during performances?
So the idea with that, we don't want to operate the place as a bar, so it would be something that would be movable, that we would do in pieces depending on the needs of the event that's in there. Something that would be easy to sort of move into the back room or into the front room. If there's a singer-songwriter and we have a caterer coming in, we might want a little bit more counter space. If it's just, refreshments after a board meeting, we would just need one space like that. So
we're thinking something a little bit more substantial than the bar on wheels like we have at the theater, just because of how we're planning on using it, but we do need it to be flexible, so it
But
can be compressed or expanded.
And still movable. I mean,
exactly, yeah, not permanent for sure.
because the way this reads, it's like, oh, we'll have another place to go drink in town, and that's not your intention.
Not quite. It's a
It's
little.
going to be just pretty much the same as what you do now for theatre events and then the special events and weddings and so on.
Correct.
And we're excited about the opportunity it gives us to showcase, starting artists, singer-songwriters, as Mark mentioned, in a smaller venue that we really just can't host.
It's like every week we come across something that we just fall in love with, or an artist that is amazing but just hasn't developed enough of a following yet to really justify the expense of putting them into the big room. So.
Any other questions from the board?
I guess you talked about the long-range vision, is that maybe you would add on to the town hall theater, is that what you're saying? So you're really buying this to be able to move forward someday, to be able to do what you need to do?
To preserve the opportunity.
That's
Correct.
makes good
And we really
sense.
don't have any other choices. There's no
absolutely
other
right.
land available.
Yeah.
So when it came up, we felt we had to act on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I didn't give this application the degree of attention I usually give to applications, and I'm wondering whether staff has a comment on the possibility of using the outdoor space in between the two buildings, and whether the rules have anything to say about that.
So if someone gets a vending cart now, like whether they're selling food or like visors or beanies or whatever, they have to get a permit from our office. And when they do that, we check like where they're gonna park and how pedestrians are gonna cross to the area to make sure that they're safe.
And what about spillover outside on a very warm evening, say, when they have the bar situation open? How does that impact things?
State law takes over what they can do and what they can't do outdoors with a bar.
Okay,
So that's pretty clear.
so you'll be there
Well,
checking
no,
it
I'm
out.
just saying that the liquor laws provide certain rules and regulations about being on the premise, having it closed down if you can't walk onto the property or off the property with alcohol.
And you're aware of these rules?
Yes, we have a close relationship with Mike Davidson, who's the enforcer for the DLC in Addison County, and he's
The
received.
enforcer, huh?
He receives, yeah, I don't know if that's his official title, but he gets lots of calls from us when we have questions, so.
Okay,
yeah.
great, thank you.
Do you have a liquor license?
We do at Town Hall Theater, but not at 66 Merchants Row.
So we will be getting one for the
Wouldn't it be continuous with what you have?
No. So we wouldn't be able to, for example, if somebody has a drink at the diner, they wouldn't be able to take it over.
They
to
wouldn't be
Town
able to
Hall
walk
Theater.
across?
Correct,
Right.
yeah, and vice
That's-
versa, so.
That's part of that,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I was kind of thinking a similar thing, now that we're hearing more tonight, like how do you, like, let's say it's a wedding reception.
Right.
You know, could there be some negative externalities that happen with a wedding reception that aren't controlled by the state liquor law people, but which we might want to regulate, but we can't from where we're sitting now, because it's like kind of, like, do you want to require a zoning permit for certain activities or something? Or like if, you mentioned renting offices to Cabricki, and then I started thinking, geez, who else could they rent it to that could end up causing impacts of any sort? We could create a general catch-all condition that any use will conform with the performance standards. That would cover noise and smells and things like that.
I guess with regard to Kubricki, I want to stress that's kind of a one-off event.
Oh,
And it's a
okay.
potential opportunity for town theater. Our intent isn't to rent the building long-term to some
Okay.
tenant. We need it for our own use.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah, this was just, it would be convenient since they're tearing up the downtown, and it makes it hard for us to use it for anything else, but if they wanted to use it for headquarters, you know, it would just be that one time.
And I brought that up because Rick was asking whether we would use the back space, and they potentially would. So,
Oh, so maybe like with regard to traffic impacts, you guys should tell us about how you can use certain off-site parking lots for events.
Oh, correct, yeah, we have, 2 parking lots on South Pleasant Street that, the owners of those buildings, the offices close at 5, and all of our, 99% of our events are after 5, so they allow us to use that for overflow parking. And it's a short walk away, and they're very well used, and we actually surprisingly never, at least I haven't gotten any parking complaints from patrons, so that's a nice arrangement. And I would assume the same would extend with events at the diner as well.
Yeah. And just per the zoning bylaws with the park diner at 66 seats, that had 22 parking space requirement. With our 50-person occupancy as a place of public assembly theater, that's only 12 and a half spaces. We're actually decreasing the parking requirements, but we're also shifting it from mid-morning when downtown's busy to evening when parking isn't as much at demand.
Right.
Do we get to sell some more parking spaces?
Put them in
I
our special
happen to
fund.
know when the Knights had the
No?
I don't
facility,
think so. I think they
we
keep
were
them under-
limited to 180 people,
180?
yes. So, and there was a lot of weddings and functions that were held there.
You should come by, I'd love to do a walkthrough with you to see what's changed.
Too many memories.
Rick, I'd just.
Yes, David.
Just expand just a little bit on Ann's question and Jen's comment on, the PUD actually will, the food venues outside and that kind of stuff, by having a PUD, it kind of erases the boundary line between the two. We don't have to be concerned with setbacks and that kind of thing, which is good. And plus with the PUD, it allows more flexibility as to the types of uses that can be ongoing there. It just, it's hard to look at our regulations and see exactly where some of the uses might fall in the CBD district, in the central business district, but they certainly are allowable as a PUD, so.
Further questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Does staff feel we need to discuss any conditions?
I don't feel like I need any direction or conditions unless there's some really
I
special
don't.
condition you want to create.
I don't have anything that, I think they will be good stewards of the property. They do a good job at what they're doing, and I wish them best of luck.
Thanks.
Ready for the motion?
Absolutely.
I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of April 22nd, 2019, approve this plan unit development and the change of use proposed for 66 Merchants Row property, formerly the Park Diner, as presented in the application by Town Hall Theater, Inc., parcel number 024-232.010, subject to the conditions outlined in deliberative session.
I don't think we need that last we're not in.
Well, we've deliberated, I guess.
Yeah, and.
Okay,
Second?
so you're gonna strike that?
Yeah.
I'll
let's strike
second that.
Conditions outlined.
Yeah.
Conditions outlined, yeah.
And Don
I'll second
seconds
it.
that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set.
Great, thank you very much.
gentlemen.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Glad you knew how to use the gavel.
Jesus.
Okay. Excuse me.
Thanks.
Okay, next order of business, other business, amendment to DRB Rules of Procedure. Everyone, I'm sure.
I know we had a discussion before the meeting started. Not everybody was present, but I asked why we were at this stage right now. I'm not really sure I understand. Are we trying to give more people an opportunity to serve? Is that why we want to extend the number of alternates, or?
It's the other way around.
Other way around.
Well, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're, like right now, you can appoint up to 5 alternates. I could let you speak to this because you're the one doing all the packets, but that's a lot of packets. And that's a lot of people sitting at these tables. And so we actually met with Kevin to see kind of where he fell on this, and he thought 1 alternate would do it for us.
And at first I thought 1 would do it too, but since I told Dave that, I changed my mind and thought that 2 would be better, because when both Gary and I put in our names as alternates, the select board knew Gary and knew what he could bring to the board. Obviously, if they had only 1 alternate position to fill, I think they would have appointed Gary because they had no idea who I was really. And I heard later, and I forgot where, that they appointed 2 alternates that time because they didn't want to discourage people newer to town from stepping forward to volunteer for these positions. And it struck me in thinking about it that having the possibility of 2 alternates, if 2 or more people applied, would allow the select board to make a decision as to whether they want only the tried and trusted or one of each, if enough people submitted their names.
I mean, that would basically come down to the select board, a decision on whether they would, if we decided on a two alternate system, if
But we
They
could make
would-
a motion indicating that we would support one alternate, correct?
I'd,
Going with the standard one alternate?
That's what we're suggesting.
Okay.
yeah,
I'm ready to
actually
make that
changing our-
motion when we're ready, but I know you want to have some more discussion on it.
Well, I'm in favor of reducing the number. I would prefer that the number be reduced to 2 rather than 1, but I don't think I'm going to vote against 1 if that's the general consensus.
I feel exactly the same way as you, and I was talking about it, before the meeting. Originally, I thought 1 was fine, and then I rethought, and I thought, 5 is way too many.
Yes.
3 is too many, 4. But 2 is palatable, but I could also be swayed to go to 1. But I think 2 at times could be helpful. But I understand in reading the rules and procedures, I mean, it's another packet. If I wasn't able to make the meeting, then I would call Dave, who's the coordinator. Then you'd have to let which alternate know. How do you figure that out? Do you pick?
Well, yeah, under our rules, everybody participates, so if there's
That's the bigger
7
issue.
That-
plus
that-
2, that means 9 would be sitting here, and the chair would determine who participates as an alternate. Well, you wouldn't have 7. Let me back up. If you have 1 regular member missing, the chair would determine who's going to participate as the alternate. But you all receive the packets, you all receive everything else, and you'd sit around, there'd be at least 8 of you sitting here, and possibly 9, because they have
That's
the right to
unimaginable,
participate.
9 people. I just can't imagine getting anything done.
Why would there be 9?
Well, there's 7 regular members plus 2 more.
You mean on the nights when everyone
Everybody
is
can.
there?
Everybody's here.
They still have the right to participate.
Yeah, they can come.
They just can't vote.
And I can't remember, and I've been on this board a long time, I can't remember the last time that we didn't have a quorum to be able to vote on something. I just can't remember that happening. Do you, Gary?
last year,
Huh?
I think there was something that
I think there was one thing
One
last
last
year. I don't know, it just hit
When
kind
we
of
had to
funny.
have Dave call in on the phone.
Yeah, he did a Skype, yeah, or whatever you call it.
So my understanding right now, we have 7 board members.
Yeah,
Correct.
And they will make one more 8 if we ask them to do that.
So we have no alternate right now.
Correct.
No, that's right, we have no appointed alternate at this point.
Okay.
the alternate got gobbled up.
It was Gary, but he took Scott's
Right,
position. when
right.
Scott-
Gobbled up by Scott.
So
maybe.
so what you've proposed is there'd be, well, basically 8 members, one of which would be an alternate.
The select board would designate who the alternate is.
Yeah.
But you're amending your own rules of procedure.
Right.
Okay. I was,
I make a motion that we stick with the current status with one alternate. If that doesn't work in the next year, we'll check it, and next year at this time, when we're due to have some changeover, we can revisit it.
So your motion is to change it from 5 to 1,
Yeah,
right now
right,
it's 5.
yes.
to 1.
And looking at Peter, one of the applicants, his company is before this organization on a regular basis. That's Otter Creek. Laurent, Jason Laurent.
He can recuse himself. and just-
He's gonna have to in most cases because
He's-
I'll bet you,
Well,
they're the majority of the people that come here.
you've got a motion.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
How often can we amend the Development Review Board Rules of Procedure? I mean, they haven't been done since 2007.
It's first page 1B.
Okay, thanks, Jen.
Uh-huh.
And I might add, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Yes,
that
sir.
I had a conversation with our current chairman, who's in Maine, and he indicated he would like to leave the board in its status quo. That would be his recommendation to him, what he said.
Well, does that mean with 5 alternates?
No.
Or just what's proposed?
Boy. If you had 5, it's conceivable that the alternates could run the meeting. I mean, if everybody didn't show up for some reason.
Well, yeah, I guess.
But just
Well,
on the,
no, the
on
chair
the,
would have to be there to appoint them, but.
or if the chair wasn't there and the vice chair wasn't there, then it would default to the, yeah, it would just get, I don't think we'd ever get into that, but five extra packets, and then, you know, if Kevin's the chair and he's got to pick which of the 5 alternates, I think I'm good with going to 1, knowing that we can amend these rules at any regular meeting, as long as it's been warned 48 hours before the meeting in writing.
The other thing is, if you have too many alternates, it encourages people to, I don't feel like going tonight.
Sure, sure.
Really? Oh, I think some of them. I mean, I like, you know, I think most of us are pretty responsible about coming. I know, you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor of the proposed,
What does their rule say? Are they saying up to 5?
now it is.
Right now, we can have up to
Up
5.
one
You look at
alternate.
Yeah,
Roman numeral 2A.
yeah, right, I see.
So the
mean,
board will
Jen,
appoint tomorrow night.
There's
excuse me?
another option.
Go ahead.
Should I throw it out? I don't want to make your life difficult. So the other option, I've worked in towns before where the alternates don't participate. And it's a fun way to train new people in, but they don't get to to participate in your discussion if the other members are present. Do you know what I mean? They only participate if there's an absence that necessitates their participation. And that's kind of nice, because your second person might be really new and need to kind of listen in on some conversations for a while to get the feel of things.
I think that's because when I came on, I was an alternate, and that's the way it was. I got the information, but if everybody was there, I couldn't, you know, participate. I couldn't vote, but, because I was new, I needed to watch and learn, you know?
Right, I think most people would feel that way, that, maybe I need to sit back and listen, about what goes on before, I'd want to be, I'll say a full-time board member or whatever, so.
Therefore, I think I'm good with the motion that's been put on the table.
Okay, so Don has motioned that we change the rules of procedure for DRB. Instead of up to 5 alternates, we will only have 1 alternate. And it was seconded by Gary. All in favor of that, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passes, so.
And then we have this DRB coordinator name change, about which there's probably no discussion needed.
So, I have a question. Oh, somebody resigns, dies, leaves town, whatever. The alternate becomes a
Right.
member. Then what do we do about appointing another alternate? Can we just do that, or can the select board do that the next meeting, or?
They have to advertise it, Jen?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
That's
I think they probably do have to advertise it, so we'd have to wait a whole year then.
No, I think they can fill an open
Oh.
appointment.
Yeah,
Maybe they could do it middle stream, but
you would, might not call it out.
Well, these are our rules, we can change them.
Right, you can add something about that.
That's what's nice, as Jen pointed out, they can be amended at any regular meeting as long as it's been a written 48 hours submitted to the board 48 hours ahead.
And I think Jen and I have talked, there's some changes amendments that need to be made to these.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you folks would find the same. Curiously, the other towns that I've served in, it's always been nice to have the DRB interview the candidates that were interested, because often people don't even understand what they're getting themselves into. And then the DRB would make a formal recommendation to the select board as to, you know, do they bring all the names forward or just a certain few or something like that. You know, whether that's something you want to consider later on or not, it does work pretty well.
It's been that way in the towns I work in too. Very funny that way. You might mention that to your favorite select board friend next time you see them.
You know, there's some benefit for you, for you folks to sit there and, you know, help them understand what they're really,
What
Buying into.
they've done to themselves.
so.
Do we have to do something about the,
Do you want to just
DRB?
accept these as amended?
yes. Shall we,
So, who made the motion before, Gary?
I made the motion.
Do you want to
I
change it
would be more
to?
than glad to make the motion to accept the amended portion of the,
rules of procedure?
yes.
So is David's, I mean, David's title, according to like the website, is the Assistant Zoning Administrator, but for these purposes, it's also the DRB Coordinator.
His job description is Assistant Zoning Administrator slash
Slash-
DRB Coordinator.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
I
And
don't tend
clocks,
to use that very much, but she's right.
Doesn't really roll off the tongue.
and clock secretary.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Is there a second?
Yeah,
What is the motion again?
to accept the.
To accept all the changes,
sure.
the
I'll
amended
second.
changes of the rules of procedure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. So,
And who seconded it? I'm sorry.
Gary.
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 I made the motion, Gary seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other business?
No, we do have a meeting on the 13th. I think you're aware of that. And it'll be the 55 Middle Road project and Tony Neary. At this point, there's, nothing else can be warned for the 13th, and you will not be meeting on on Memorial Day, so.
Any,
That's the 13th.
13, yeah.
any, I missed the last meeting. Any update on the motel south of town? It was probably discussed, I'm
went by
probably
it
beating a
today,
dead
and I
horse,
was
but.
wondering myself.
Yeah, they tested the asbestos and have that figured out. It's slightly something, but not too
Okay.
much. And then they pumped out the basement, which had a ruptured fuel oil tank and standing water. So they got that taken care of. And last we heard from a local realtor is that it was under offer. So it looks like someone may buy it as is and clean it up and then do something of their own. So that would be a best case scenario.
Oh, that would be
Gonna do that?
perfect.
What do you think's gonna do
There's
that?
a letter to the editor in the paper about
I
Pool
can't
World.
tell you, I'm sworn to secrecy.
You guys.
Today's paper.
Uh-huh.
Ours doesn't come till tomorrow.
Oh, okay, so yeah,
Right.
Pool World letter to the
Don't ask me,
editor.
I'm sworn to secrecy.
Okay.
So, what happened on the fuel tank?
Oh, something happened in the fuel tank and then there was standing water in the basement, maybe from firefighting activities. And the fuel was mixing in with the water, so I don't know if the tank ruptured or a line was loose, but
They just come in and pump that out.
yeah, the.
Put it on
There was
back
quite a
machine.
bit of fuel in the cellar.
So they pumped it out, and that's it?
Well,
No cleanup?
I don't know.
No, that's-
We'll find
that's no
out.
big deal.
It's moving in the right direction.
So,
Yeah.
that is zoned agricultural,
Yes, it is.
okay? Does everyone understand that?
That's correct.
And it's been how long since the fire?
Only a year.
No?
No, 2 years.
Only
17,
2 years.
2 years. Yep.
Yeah.
But they have up to 4 years
It was
to
4?
request you folks, at your pleasure, you can consider what was there before, or
Okay.
something less intense.
If the new, let's say it goes up for sale, somebody buys it as is, are they deemed then responsible to clean up what's there? I mean, does that sanction we made spill over to in the sale? Or, I mean, I would think they would, but, or do we have to then go after the new people if they don't do anything with it?
I don't think, John, that the bank will ever let somebody leave it the way it is without protecting the.
Cash is king. What if somebody pays cash for the property? Banks don't they're not involved, and, I don't know, I'm just playing what if.
It could happen.
It's a good point.
More to it than that. That's
Okay, we'll wait and see.
Anything else? You have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I want to, you did a fine job, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.